My name is Renee A. Rains, and I am 36 years old. I got the text on a Thursday afternoon while I was sitting at my desk trying to pretend the day was normal. My boyfriend had been at a 3-day conference since Tuesday morning, the kind of mandatory work thing he described with rehearsed excitement, networking, breakout sessions, top performers, all of it. He'd kiss me goodbye with that confident smile people wear when they want you to feel proud of them. And I let myself believe it, because believing him was easier than interrogating the little gaps. His message popped up like a postcard. Hey babe, conference is going amazing. They added extra workshops for top performers extending till Sunday. Don't wait up. Love you. I was typing back something supportive, something automatic. Congrats, babe. Proud of you, when my phone rang. The caller ID made my stomach drop because it was a name I had no reason to see in the middle of the workday. It was Howard, his direct supervisor. Hey, is he feeling better? Howard sounded genuinely concerned, which almost made it worse. We're worried since he called out sick for the conference. It's mandatory, and missing it affects his quarterly review. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, staring at my boyfriend's text like it was a trap I'd stepped into with both feet. I could hear Howard breathing on the other end, waiting for me to say something that made sense. Thanks for the information, Howard, I said, keeping my voice smooth because shock has always made me calm first. I'll make sure he knows about the quarterly review impact. There was a pause. Wait, is he okay? Howard asked. He said it was a stomach bug. He's fine, I lied, because in that moment I needed the conversation to end before my voice betrayed me. Appreciate the call. I hung up and just sat there. My boyfriend's text was still open on my screen. Conference is going amazing. The line came so easily to him, no hesitation, no guilt. Even the love you at the end, like it was garnish meant to make the lie taste sweet. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't do any of the things I used to imagine I'd do if someone ever betrayed me. I opened the Find My Phone app, because last year I set it up on his device after he lost it at the mall and acted helpless until I fixed it. He'd forgotten it existed. People forget the things that don't matter to them, and apparently my trust had started to fall into that category. His dot was sitting at the Rosewood Hotel, 40 minutes away. Not at any conference hotel, not 3 states over. 40 minutes. Close enough to come home every night if he wanted to. Close enough to still pretend he was working late if the lie needed adjusting. And then the clarity hit. The quiet kind that doesn't feel like anger. It feels like math. Like when you finally see the answer and realize the question was never complicated, you just didn't want it to be true. He was not at a conference. He was not sick. He was at a hotel. Here's the thing about him. He always thought he was smarter than everyone, especially me. But he got sloppy when he was confident. Like using our shared credit card for the hotel room. Like forgetting location sharing existed. Like assuming his supervisor would never call me because he'd told me Howard was weird and clingy and always watching him. As if the man's job wasn't literally to know where his employees were supposed to be. I didn't scream. I made one phone call. I called my brother-in-law, Tony, who happens to be a divorce attorney, and the second he answered, I kept my voice casual because part of me still couldn't believe I was saying the words out loud. Tony, hypothetical question, I said. He went quiet in that way lawyers do when they hear the word hypothetical, and no, it's never hypothetical. Okay. If someone wanted to file based on adultery in this state, I said, what would they need? Evidence, Tony said immediately. Texts, photos, credit card statements. Why? How fast could someone get papers drawn up? There was a longer pause this time. Renee, he said carefully, this isn't hypothetical, is it? He's at a hotel 40 minutes away, I said, my voice still calm, which scared me more than shaking would have. He's telling me he's at a conference. He's telling his boss he's sick. I just got called. Tony exhaled, like he'd been waiting years for someone to finally stop bleeding quietly. I'll have them ready by tonight, he said. Come by at 7. I spent the next 2 hours going through our life. Not emotionally, more like I was taking inventory of a house I was about to sell. We'd been together a long time, no kids. He always said he wanted to focus on his career first, wanted things stable, wanted timing to be right. I wondered what he'd been focusing on at the Rosewood. The finances were simpler than the relationship. The house was mine before we got together. My retirement accounts were separate. His were separate. Our only real joint account was a checking account that barely had $3,000 in it because I'd stopped mixing money the first time he forgot to tell me about a credit card balance. We'd been living parallel lives without admitting it. Or maybe he admitted it. Maybe that's why cheating felt easy. People betray you faster when they've already detached in their head. I packed while making a list, and I packed like someone who didn't want an argument later about what belonged to whom. His clothes went into suitcases, 3 of them, his shoes lined up in pairs, his work equipment from the home office boxed neatly, his family photos, the framed ones he insisted needed to be displayed but never looked at, stacked carefully. I left his jewelry and watches in a small labeled bag. I did not touch anything sentimental that could be twisted into a story about me being cruel. I left it all in the garage, organized, labeled, like I was clearing space, not destroying someone, because I wasn't trying to punish him. I was trying to exit cleanly. When Tony handed me the paperwork later, it was simple and brutal in the way truth always is. Irreconcilable differences, clean split. He keeps what's his, I keep what's mine. No alimony request. No drama written on paper, even if there would be drama in real life. Tony slid it across the table and looked at me like he wanted to ask if I was okay, but lawyers are trained to let silence do its job. I signed where he told me to sign. Then I went back to my house and placed the papers on the kitchen counter with a sticky note. Howard called. He hopes you feel better from your stomach bug. That was all I wrote. No yelling, no paragraph, just the truth, delivered like a receipt. Then I grabbed my go bag, the one I'd always told myself was just in case, because I've never liked feeling trapped, and I went to Tony's guest room. He started calling at 11 p.m. I didn't answer. He called again at 11:15, 11:30, and by the time midnight hit, my phone looked like it was trying to bruise itself with the number of notifications. Then he started texting. Why aren't you answering? Is everything okay? Renee, please pick up. I'm worried something happened to you. And then the one that told me everything. I'm driving home right now. It was 1 a.m. Even by his own lie timeline, he wasn't supposed to be back until Sunday. But the moment he realized something was off, he ran, not to check on me, but to control the situation before it controlled him. He came home to an empty house at 2 a.m., I know, because he called Tony's house phone. Tony still has a landline, like a man who trusts paper more than apps. Tony's wife answered and told him I was asleep and she wasn't waking me. According to her, my boyfriend went from confused to furious to hysterical in about 30 seconds. "Oh, this is illegal," he shouted. "She can't just abandon me. I'll call the police." Tony's wife, calm as a locked door, said, "The papers on your counter suggest otherwise. Have a good night." I lay in that guest bed staring at the ceiling, listening to my heartbeat like it was counting down to something. I didn't feel heartbreak yet. I felt preparation, because I knew him. I knew how quickly he could flip from charming to desperate, and I knew that if he could lie to me that smoothly, he could lie to anyone. The only difference now was that I had proof, and tomorrow he would start looking for ways to make me the villain in a story he created. Friday morning, I woke up to my phone looking like it had been in a fight. 83 text messages. I'm not exaggerating. 83. And they didn't even pretend to be about my feelings. They were about control, about fixing the problem, about dragging me back into a conversation where he could steer the outcome. The messages ran through the entire grief cycle like he'd Googled it and decided to speedrun it. First was denial. This is a misunderstanding. Howard must have confused me with someone else. Then anger. You're seriously ending this over a miscommunication. You're pathetic. Then bargaining. Can we please just talk? I can explain everything. Then depression. I can't believe you're throwing away years like this. Then acceptance for about 10 seconds before it snapped back into rage. I want half of everything. That house is ours. You can't just do this. That was the moment I'd finally answered, not because I owed him a conversation, but because I wanted the record to be clear. I typed one sentence. Your signature on the agreement you insisted on suggests otherwise. I didn't call it a prenup in the message, but that's what it was, the so-called protection he demanded, back when he thought he had more to lose. He called immediately. I answered on speaker while Tony sat across from me with a legal pad like he was watching a case study unfold in real time. You set me up, my boyfriend said the second I answered. His voice had that panicked edge he only used when he wanted to sound like the victim. I'm at a conference. How could you do this? How did I set you up? I asked. I kept my voice flat because if I let emotion in, he would use it like proof I was unstable. Stop playing games, he snapped. Howard had no right to call you. He creeps me out. He's always watching me. So you weren't at the conference, I said. There was a split second of silence where I could almost hear him deciding which lie to pick. Then he pivoted. I needed a break, he said quickly. A mental health break. The job is stressful. And you took that break at the Rosewood Hotel, I said, 40 minutes away. He hesitated. I was alone, he said. I just needed space to think about us. Tony didn't react, but I saw his pen stop, like even he appreciated the audacity. And you needed to think about us at a hotel booked under L. Carter, I said, naming the initial like a pin sliding under his skin. You used our card, it's on the statement. The inhale on the other end was sharp. That's not, he started, then stopped, because you can't outtalk a receipt. With who? I asked. Don't say alone again. He didn't answer. That silence was louder than any confession. You can explain it to the judge, I said, or to Tony, or to whoever you think will believe you. I'm done. I ended the call. Within an hour, he'd called Tony's office so many times that Tony's assistant started keeping count like it was a game. 6 calls, then 8, then 12. Then he showed up at my parents' house, because of course he did. He always knew exactly where to go when he needed an audience that might pressure me into being reasonable. My mom called me, voice strained with that careful tone she uses when she thinks I'm about to make the family look bad. Honey, she said, he's here crying about some conference mix-up. Mom, I said, he was at a hotel with another woman while telling me he was at a conference and telling his boss he was sick. There was a pause. Oh, my mom said softly. Then, like her brain searched for the closest socially acceptable response, she asked, should I still offer him tea? Tony glanced up and I almost smiled. That's up to you, I said, but tea is for family. Later I found out my mom gave him a single glass of tap water, listened to him for exactly 5 minutes, then told him he should probably leave. Not because she was outraged for me, but because she hates mess. And he brought mess into her living room. He didn't stop there. He showed up at my work. Security called me. There's a man here saying he's your boyfriend and needs to speak to you urgently. X, I said automatically, and no thank you. They say it's an emergency, the guard added. Unless he is currently on fire, I said, it can wait. They didn't let him in, but he stood outside the building for 2 hours like a statue of entitlement. Coworkers sent me pictures from the windows. He was on his phone the entire time, probably rehearsing his next move. And then, right on schedule, the threat arrived, because when he couldn't control me, he tried to control the narrative. If you don't meet with me today, his text read, everyone will know what kind of woman you really are, how you controlled and manipulated me for years. I forwarded it to Tony. Tony laughed. Actual laughter, the kind that comes from a lawyer who knows discovery exists. Let him, he said. Discovery will be fun. He didn't post anything. Not yet. Because something happened that made his confidence crack. Something he didn't see coming. Saturday night, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me to answer. Is this Renee? A man's voice asked, tight and tired. Yes, I said. My name is Cole, he said. I'm married to Lila Carter. I think we should talk. That sentence hit like cold water. Married. Not only was my boyfriend cheating, he was cheating with a woman who had her own life, her own vows, her own lie system running parallel to mine. I think I know why you're calling, I said carefully. I found your number in my wife's messages, Cole said. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here because I'm done being confused. There was a pause, then his voice lowered. How long have you known? I swallowed. Since Thursday, I said. Since Howard called me. Cole exhaled like someone finally let him set down a heavy bag. Okay, he said. Then you're ahead of me. I've been suspicious for months. My stomach turned, not because I doubted him, but because that meant this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern, a schedule, a secret life. We should meet, Cole said. I have things, proof. And I think you should see it, because if they're lying to us this easily, they're lying about more than just where they slept. When I hung up, Tony looked at me like he already knew what I was about to say. The other spouse, I said. Tony's expression sharpened. Good, he said quietly. That means we get the full picture. I stared at my phone, the screen still glowing with unanswered texts from my boyfriend, and something inside me settled even deeper. He thought he was playing a game he could win with charm and threats. He had no idea someone else had been keeping score longer than I had. And the next time he tried to rewrite the story, he was going to learn what happens when two people compare receipts. I met Cole Sunday morning at a coffee shop that smelled like burnt espresso and regret, the kind of place where people go to talk about things they don't want overheard. He showed up early with a folder so thick it looked like it had weight, not just paper, but time inside it. He didn't waste words. He opened it and slid it across the table like he'd been waiting for permission to stop pretending everything was fine. There were photos first, grainy, but clear enough to make my stomach drop. My boyfriend and Lila at lunch dates going back 6 months, always just far enough from their workplaces to feel anonymous. Hotel receipts followed, not just the Rosewood, but 3 others, all conveniently close to where each of them could claim a late meeting or a work dinner. Cole had text screenshots too, conversations where my boyfriend bragged to a friend about the pharma girl who thought she was upgrading her life. I didn't feel jealousy reading it. I felt disgusted. People don't betray you once. They rehearse it. Cole stirred his coffee and told me the part that hurt him the most. Lila had said I was controlling, emotionally distant, obsessed with money, that she needed space and safety, that she'd found someone who understood her. I laughed once, short and sharp, because my boyfriend had told me the same story about her, that Cole was cold, that he worked too much, that he never listened. 2 separate marriages fed the same script. We compared notes the way people do when they realize the pattern is bigger than either of them. My boyfriend told Lila he was a senior executive. He wasn't. He said he owned the house. He didn't. He said he was getting divorced. He wasn't. He told her he had a trust fund. Cole snorted at that. His mom sometimes sends him $50 for gas, he said. That's the trust. While we were still sitting there, my phone buzzed. A text from my boyfriend. We need to talk. Then another. She lied to me about everything, I showed Cole. He laughed so hard he almost spilled his coffee. Funny how clarity arrives once the fantasy collapses, he said. He told me he'd already filed and had Lila served at her office on Friday. She'd been calling him nonstop. He blocked her. What are you going to do? He asked me. I already filed, I said. I'm not negotiating my way back into a lie. By Monday morning, the dominoes started falling. Howard called again, apologetic this time. My boyfriend hadn't shown up for work and wasn't answering his phone. HR had reports. Other reps had seen him at a restaurant with Lila during the supposed stomach bug. It wasn't the affair that got him fired. It was the lying. Terminated for misconduct. He tried to file for unemployment. Denied. That night he showed up drunk at Tony's house with his sister Denise, pounding on the door and screaming about marital rights and fairness. Rita called the police. He told them I'd stolen his house. They asked for proof. He had none. Denise tried to secretly record the officers, dropped her phone, cracked the screen, then demanded Tony pay for it because it happened on his property. Tony handed her his card and said, "Sue me." They left quieter than they arrived. Wednesday, my bank called. Someone tried to access my accounts, claiming to be me. They had my social and my birthday. They didn't have the security answers. I'd set them to fake information years ago for exactly this reason. The bank froze the attempt and notified the police. Fraud isn't a tantrum. It's a felony. When he realized threats weren't working, my boyfriend tried reinvention. He launched a blog about surviving narcissistic abuse, long posts about how I isolated him, controlled his finances, and forced him to seek comfort elsewhere. He forgot that receipts exist. He forgot that Tony subscribes to nonsense for evidence. He forgot that hotel statements don't care about your feelings. His mother, Patricia, escalated it further, calling my workplace pretending to be a client, then showing up with Denise and a cousin to peacefully protest. Security blocked them. They held signs. Nobody honked. The police moved them along. Patricia texted me from an unknown number, threatening to call every future employer I ever had. I forwarded it to Tony. Tony forwarded it to the police. Blackmail doesn't age well. Friday afternoon, Kevin, the man who thought he was winning something, asked to meet. I went out of curiosity. He showed up in a cheap suit with the creases still in it and asked me, man to woman, to take my boyfriend back so he'd stop calling her. I laughed. You want me to absorb the fallout of your affair so you can move on. He called me petty. I told him I stopped financing other people's fantasies. He left angry and small. By the end of the week, everyone was tired. Lies require energy. Truth just sits there. And then came court. He arrived dressed for optics, flanked by his family and a life coach who kept trying to speak. The judge asked simple questions. Who paid for the hotel? Why he lied to his employer? Why there was a fraud attempt? Why my workplace was harassed? Silence answered most of them. The agreement he once demanded did the rest. Clean split, legal fees assigned, no grand speeches. Outside, Patricia started yelling again. He stopped her, not out of growth, but exhaustion. It's over, he said. With what money? She asked. He had none. He looked at me and said he hoped I was happy. I said I wanted a faithful partner. I settled for a clean ending.
Later, he texted once more, "For what it's worth, I loved you." I replied, "Cool," and blocked him.
The house got quieter. Work got easier. I started seeing someone new who listens and laughs at the absurd parts without needing me to explain myself into knots. Tony framed the decree. Cole sent a message thanking me for the honesty. And the Rosewood sent a thank you card. Apparently, I'd earned enough points from charges I didn't make to get a free weekend stay. I'm taking it with someone who tells the truth. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The rest is just paperwork. The weeks after court were quieter, but not peaceful in the way people imagine quiet should be. It was the kind of silence where echoes linger, where every notification makes you glance at your phone just in case someone has decided to try again. My boyfriend didn't reach out. Neither did his mother or his sister. That alone told me the damage had finally reached a point they couldn't argue their way out of. I heard updates through other people, not because I asked, but because mess has a way of leaking. He was staying with his mother now, sleeping on a couch he once mocked. His sister had stopped returning calls from friends who'd watched her scream outside my lawyer's house. Patricia had been arrested for keying someone's car in a parking dispute and apparently told the officer she was under extreme emotional distress. That phrase was doing a lot of work for her. Work, on the other hand, surprised me. My boss pulled me aside one afternoon and told me he'd noticed how calmly I'd handled everything, how I'd kept my personal life from bleeding into the office, even when people tried to drag it there. He said professionalism under pressure mattered more than people realized. 2 weeks later, I was promoted. Not because of sympathy, because I'd proven something about myself I hadn't fully seen before. The blog disappeared shortly after court. The paid subscription shut down quietly. No apology post, no accountability, just gone. It wasn't closure, but it was confirmation. People who rewrite reality don't like archives. I ran into Cole again by accident at the same coffee shop where everything cracked open. He looked lighter. He told me he was finalizing his own split and thanked me for comparing notes instead of competing narratives. It helped, he said, knowing I wasn't crazy. I understood exactly what he meant. One afternoon, I found the sticky note I'd left on the counter that first night, folded and tucked into a drawer. Howard hopes you feel better from your stomach bug. I laughed for the first time at the memory, not bitterly, but with distance. Lies always feel dramatic when you're inside them. Outside, they look small. I got one last message from an unknown number late one night. No name, just, "You didn't have to ruin him." I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it. You can't ruin someone by refusing to carry their lies for them. They do that on their own. I stopped waiting for the next shoe to drop. I stopped checking my phone before bed. I started sleeping through the night. The house felt like mine again, not a stage waiting for an argument. And for the first time in a long while, my life didn't feel like a reaction to someone else's choices. But there was still one loose end, and it came in the form of a letter, slid under my door in an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sentence in his handwriting. I hope someday you understand why I did what I did. I did understand. That was the problem. I shredded it and took the trash out, because understanding doesn't require forgiveness, and it certainly doesn't require reopening a door you worked this hard to close. Life didn't explode after that. It expanded, slowly, quietly, in ways that didn't need witnesses. I started seeing someone new, not because I was lonely, but because I wasn't. He asked questions and waited for answers. When I said no, it didn't turn into a negotiation. When I said yes, it felt intentional instead of obligated. That alone felt revolutionary. Tony framed the final decree and hung it next to his law degree. He joked it was the cleanest case he'd ever handled, where the opposing side did all the work for him. I laughed, but part of me understood the truth underneath it. The truth always wins when you let it exist long enough. The Rosewood Hotel sent a thank you card in the mail. Apparently, the charges I never approved had earned enough points for a complimentary weekend stay. I almost threw it away out of principle, then stopped. I booked it, not for revenge, not for irony. Because it was mine now, and I was done letting bad memories dictate good decisions. Sometimes I think about how easy it was for him to lie. Conference is going amazing, like breathing, like nothing. It makes you wonder how many other conferences were just 40 minutes away. But wondering doesn't change anything, and it's not my job to audit someone else's past. What I learned is simpler than all the chaos made it seem. People don't betray you all at once. They do it in small, convenient ways, counting on your patience to cover the gap. And when you finally stop filling that space, they panic because the story falls apart without you playing your role. I don't play that role anymore. The house is quieter. My life is steadier. And the next time someone tells me a story that feels too polished, too easy, too rehearsed, I'll remember how Clarity felt that first afternoon at my desk. Phone in my hand, truth clicking into place. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Everything after that is just paperwork.